Hello, my name is Maggie. I am a web and graphic designer from the Philadelphia area. In this project, we're going to work with HTML and CSS, and we're going to use Flexbox to build a to-do app. Flexbox layouts in CSS are really awesome because they make it super easy to create flexible, responsive designs without having to use tables or positioning or float. And what we're going to find in this project is we can really stylize and create an interesting layout for our to-do app by working with the Flexbox properties. So here we are inside of our project, but let's actually start with our first task. Okay, so we come to 1, and our first task is going to be, and we're going to start with these first 2, set the display value of elements with the class of container to Flex. Before we add Flex to container, let's actually take a look at what is the container. So let's look at our to-do app layout. What we see as we take a closer look is that container is wrapped around these rows. So container begins with the row of Monday, and it goes all the way down and ends after reminders. Let's locate the container tag inside of the HTML. The container tag begins at line 21 and the closing div tag is after reminders. So what that means is that all of the items inside of container will be Flex items. So we start with task 1, and with task 1 we're going to set the display of container and square to Flex. We come into our CSS, into our style CSS sheet, and we begin by finding container. We come to line 36 of the page, we hit return, and we type. We add our CSS, display, flex, semicolon, and there we have it. We continue, we find the element square, and we're going to add another line of CSS, another property. So we add the property display, and we add the value flex, semicolon. We hit save, and we have added another line of CSS to our project. Quickly, we look at square, and we can see that these blue and these yellow boxes that make up the weeks are square. They're that element. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to set the display value of week and reminders to inline flex. So why inline flex and not flex? Well, we can compare flex to a block element, and we can compare inline flex to inline elements. What that means, and as we look at our layout here, we're in our HTML now, is we can see that both week and reminders are inside of container. So we come on through, we take a closer look at our HTML, and we can find both week and both reminders inside of the container. So therefore, they are inline flex. We go to style.css and we find the class of week. We come to the class week, we start a new line of CSS, and we type display, inline dash flex, semicolon. We find the class of reminders in our CSS. We start a new line and we type display, inline dash flex, semicolon, and we hit save. Now that we've completed task 1, let's take a look and see what our to do or not to do layout looks like. What we can see is that all of our squares and the week and the reminders are all in one row. Now this is because we put them on inline flex. No need to fear. As we move through our other tasks, we are going to make this layout totally work. We move on to task 2. And here we're going to work with the property of FlexGrow. What is FlexGrow? FlexGrow is a property of the Flexbox layout, and what it does is it allows the items, the flex items, to grow and expand if necessary. What also is pretty awesome about it is we can define the size of the item. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the elements of week End of reminders. We're going to set 1 to 3 and 1 to 2, and we're going to see what happens. We come to our styles.css sheet, we locate the class of week, and we set the FlexGrow value to 3, flex-grow, 3, semicolon. Next, we find the class of reminders, and this time we set the FlexGrow value to 2. We type flex-grow, 2, semicolon. We hit save. And then let's take a look at our layout. What we see is that through setting the set FlexGrow value to 3, the week squares are smaller. And by setting the FlexGrow property for reminders to 2, the reminders area is larger. We move on from task 2 to task 3. Here we're going to set the week class elements to have a column flex direction. What is flex direction? Well, the options tell us all about it. We could set flex direction to column, as we're going to do here. We can set it to row, row reverse, column reverse. Let's take a look. We come to our CSS, we come to week. We type the following: flex dash direction, column, semicolon. We hit save and we take a look at our layout. And what we're going to find is that all of our week elements are now displaying in a column. We scroll down. Instead of being in one long line, they are all now in a column. Task 3 now completed. We move to task 4. Here, we're going to use the flex wrap property, and we're going to wrap all of the elements of row on our page. The rows on our layout are the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the blue squares with their accompanying yellow squares. What does flex wrap do? Flex wrap, as we know, is another property of Flexbox, and it allows us to specify if our items will wrap or not. So let's apply this command to the row and make this element wrap if necessary. The CSS reads as follows: flex-wrap, wrap, semicolon, and we hit save and take a look at our layout. Task 4 is now complete. Move from task 4 to task 5. And here we're going to work with justify content. Justify content allows us to align our flex items. So here we're going to set the justify content of row to space around to begin. And then we're going to go from go to square and set that one to center. Now, justify content, we have a lot of different options. We could do center. What does center do? Center will align the items in the center. Space around is going to space our items out evenly. We have other options too. We could do flex start. The flex start is actually the default, and this places the items at the beginning. We could do flex end, which places the items at the end, or flex between, which is the space between the lines. We come to our styles.css. We find the class of row, and we set the justify content to space around. We type justify dash content, space dash around, semicolon. We go on to hit save, and then we look for our next class, square. Here we're going to set square to center. We come to a new line of our CSS. We hit return, go to the last line, hit return, and we type the following: justify dash content. This time we hit center and semicolon. Once again, we hit save, and now we come and we take a look and see what our layout looks like. So we know that for rows, we set it to space around. So our rows are spaced evenly out. We see the blue and the yellow boxes, they have even space between. Now the blue and the yellow boxes are the square elements, and we can see that the content inside of square, inside of the yellow and blue squares, the content is all centered. Now that we have completed tasks 1 through 5, we'll move on to task 6. In task 6, we're going to take a look at align items, at the property of align items. Align items will align our flex items vertically. And by doing so, we can really ensure that we are creating a responsive design that will render on different monitors and devices. So for this task, we're going to set row to center and square to center. And again, by doing so, we are ensuring that these elements will always align in the center of the device on which they're being viewed. We come to our styles.css and we find the class of row and we set align dash items :center semicolon. We hit save. We move on. We find the element of square and again we type align dash items :center semicolon. We hit save one more time. We can mark task 6 complete and take a look at our Flexbox layout. Congratulations, you have successfully designed a flexible, responsive layout with Flexbox, and you have worked with a whole bunch of its properties. This is Maggie from Codecademy. Happy coding!